Hi everybody, long time no see. I have had the privilege, honor, fun to play around with True-Terrain 5, and I'm just going to show you today how the way you texture landscapes is different to True-Terrain 4, and we're going to create this scene here. And there are so many great new features and approaches that I'm pretty sure this video will not suffice, and if you're interested I'm going to make a deep dive a little bit later on. So let's start. I have only installed True-Terrain 5, so no True-Terrain 4.4, which you could import your assets and your shaders. But I want to show you what you will get and how you approach your terrain scaping with only True-Terrain 5. Okay, so the first thing you see is you have an option here, create terrain, and what it does immediately is set up a noise-based terrain with the dimensions of 1000 meters. So I'm not going to go into terrain making, but I'm going to show you what I like to do. First is I'm going to delete this layer, click on plus and use height map. When you have installed everything that is available now for True-Terrain 5, you will get a bunch of ready-made height maps. So what we're going to do is just take one of those, I don't care which one, let's take this mount. Right, so you get this. First of all, I don't work with so large a terrain, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the grid setting to, let's say, 400. And I'm also decreasing the height map size accordingly. So the only thing we need to do is to change the height multiplier to what we want and still keep it realistic. The next thing is you can see that the grid is on the 0 axis, but the terrain itself is a little bit below. You can change that by clicking the arrow here at offset and I click lowest. Now everything sits on 0. It's not important, but eventually when we come to scattering it might be an issue. Okay, so let's find a nice perspective and start texturing. So something like this. But to be honest, let's change our viewport or resolution so it's more like this, and we can go to 100. So maybe let's do this, something like that, and let's zoom in a bit and go like this. Right. Okay, so the next thing I like to do is to see how my light is set up. I have just a simple sky texture Nishita light setup, and let's change that so we get some like so. Okay, as you can already see, this is not very detailed, and that's because when you create the terrain it is set to 265 vertices. Of course you can increase this, like let's go to 500, and you can see immediately that it gets more realistic. However, this is already a little bit much. However, you could keep it like at 1000 depending on the power of your machine and decrease the viewport amount to 0.5, so you're actually working on 1000 vertices, but you're only seeing half of it in the viewport. There's another brilliant new thing in here. When you stay at the geometry tab, you can click on camera culling. Look, this is spectacular. I love that so much. Again, we're starting at 250k vertices and we bring it down to 78. I mean, that's fantastic. So let's stick with that, and as I said, we want to go to the shading. So when you install True-Terrain 5 as it is now, you get a bunch of very nice shaders. Of course, if you have True-Terrain 4, you can import your others and they will be available here. Now, as you can see, there is no category. I mean, you can search for them, but in True-Terrain 4 you had ground and you had cliff and then you mixed them. Here it's more like a Photoshop approach. You're putting layers on layers on layers. You can group them and then mix them all together, and I'm going to show you how. So the first thing is, let's go with, I don't know, dark grass. Let's go with 4K because I want to see it here. Add the layer, and you can see it's already put in there. Now the first thing I'm going to do, now let's go down, is very conveniently the scale and the displacement settings are put to the top, so because they're really important. The first thing I found is that in all of my scenes, specular is a little bit too brash, so at the beginning I'm putting that down to 0. Then I carefully increase the scale so that it makes sense. What does sense mean? We still like to have a sense of scale. So what we should do, just for a reminder, is bring in a cube like so, and make the cube, right now it is, I want the cube to be, 2 meters by 2 meters. Okay, so it would be a large person. But that's the scale of the thing. We can leave it for down. Let's go back to our shader. Now, nothing is that symmetrical in a landscape, so let's do and bring in some brown gravel. Again, pick the quality you want, add the layer, and as I've said, it is the next layer you can see. If I'm clicking on this, only the green is to be seen. So the first thing we're doing is, again, I'm bringing down specular. I'm taking a closer look at my big guy here and change the scale. Something like so. That still looks realistic in a way. Slightly increase the displacement. And now we're going to mix those two layers, and that is done in the mask section. And here you've got a lot of options. Attribute, distance, height. Usually I go with normal mask or patch mask. You could also do a path mask, which is great, which I'm going to show you right now. We're not going to use it, but eventually, so I can just draw in a path. Let's go like this. And I've got a path. I can change that. I can change the curve, things like that. This is awesome, but that's not what we're going to do right now. So let's delete the path mask, and we can also delete the curve. And we're going, let's try a normal mask. So right now, and that is something you know already from True Terrain 4, we're going to use the preview shader modifier. So everything is black, so everything is green. So let's play with these settings here. And you can already see where the other layer will shine through. However, I don't want, well, we can take a look. It does look nice, but it's not the effect I wanted. I wanted the grass where, or the place where our guy is standing, to be patchy. So let's see if we can achieve that, like so. So, something like this, maybe. Decrease, increase this. Yeah, that looks okay, right? I don't worry about all these things because this will be our mountain rock layer. So let's go into that. Let's find. Now, another awesome new feature is that whenever you're installing True Terrain 5, and I think it's something in the preferences, or it does it automatically, you get a new library in your asset browser, which is called library. TT library shaders. So what you can do now is just drag and drop the texture of your choice into your scene, and that's what we're doing. So again, let's bring in, let's go to the shader, increase this to 4K, specular down, scale up, something like this. Increase the displacement slightly, like so. That's okay. And now we're going to mix the rock layer with our ground layer. And for that, I normally use a slope mask. So you can see this is our the mixture of our ground layer. However, I want the ground to come up, so I'm inverting the mask and slightly increase the slope factor. So I'm getting back my ground, something like this. I like that, right. And last but not least, we're going to take another texture for our cliff face, which we're going to, let's take this one. Again, bring it in, go back to shader, 4K, specular down, at least that's what I like to do, and I want this up a bit to feature that texture, so that's okay for me. Let's increase the displacement a little bit, go back and do another slope mask. And I'm going to invert it and bring back everything I want. And this is a good like so. Right, as you can see, I've got this layer up here with bits shining through those cliff faces. I like that a lot. So essentially that's how you texture. You put layer on layer and mask them the way you want. You have other options as well. So for example, you can change the texture. I like that texture actually. So let's go with the green one. You can just click it here and choose any texture you want, brown clay, and it will keep all the settings you have done. It just changes the texture. So let's go back and bring that in. So yeah, you might be wondering, what are all these? These are custom textures of mine I have already brought in, and you can do that, and I will show you that if you're interested in a later video. I like that too. But as we're going to scatter something, we should have some greenery around, so let's take the dark grass and keep it like that. So that's it. Now if we give this a render, let's see, we've put everything in order. Shouldn't take too long. We have our scene in here. Okay, doesn't look bad, but you will say, Bergelmeer, it does look pretty flat and not really detailed. You were using 4K textures. Why is this still so unimpressive? The answer is because I have shown you another brilliant new thing, which is the material setting. And here we can really fine-tune the presence of our landscape. So the first thing is I'm slightly increasing the displacement. I'll keep the mid-level as is, but I'm increasing the details depth. Now look what's happening. It's almost too much. Let's go like so. Increase the tone. Normal is still, as soon as you overdo it, you get a lot of black streaks and things like that. You don't want that, so very carefully. Increase the detail strength, maybe like so. Remember, that's the first one. Let's do another one. And as you can see, we get much more fine details in here, much more realistic. Same on the ground, as you can see. The next thing we can do is double check if our geometry setting of 1000 isn't too much. Let's go to 500. Oh, 800. I think that'll suffice. Let's go with 800. Like so. And we can also play with all of the settings of our layers as we want. So I think the last one is good. Maybe change that a little bit. This one to make it more realistic, like so. Make it really big, like so. And this one is actually really fine. So yeah, it's just, you can spend hours, but I don't have to tell you. Everyone who is working with true terrain add-ons just forgets the time. So what we're going to do now is I want to give you a quick presentation of the new scatter system, which is awesome as well. So you add a scatter system, And then again, you get all of these assets already for free when you're getting True Terrain 5. So what we could do is we can just click, let's take the figures here, and it's already in. And as you can see, of course, it's also recognizing the camera card we included. So that's already quite nice. However, I want to show you something else, because this is just one of 3 of these trees, and of course it's not properly assigned. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete the objects, and as before, you're not only getting a library of shaders, you also get a library of objects. So what we're going to do is we could either place individual assets here, or we can scatter them. And in here, we're going to take the figures we saw before. Where is it? Well, there it is. And I'm going to select all 3 and click on Add All, and he will ask me. These come all in medium quality right now, but he's going to scatter all 3 objects in here. So I got the diversity already just with a click. Now, too much on the cliff face, so we have various options, but as we have our guy box standing there, we can do the scatter around mask, use our cube, and then increase the radius, and you will see it starts to be scattered around my box, like so. No. And of course, so that one was a test, we don't need that. And all of these objects are addressed here. So if you want, for example, to get some huge trees in there differently and want to address them differently, you just add a new layer and these objects and can change them individually. Otherwise, those 3 objects are all being addressed over here. So here is our seed. Let's go to 1. Let's see which one we like best. That's actually quite nice. Let's hide that, because we still need it for the scatter around. But I don't know. They all look good. Like this. And could play with scale. But one seems to be okay, and rotation. Okay, sorry, Blender just decided it needed a break, and unfortunately I had to start again. Well, autosave was a blessing, so nothing really happened. So that's what I wanted to show you. That's how the new texture layer system works. You've got drag and drop, and you've got the same thing with a very, very powerful scatter system. I will go ahead and play around with an HDRI background sky and see how realistic I can make this scene. That's the one I have shown you at the beginning. You're free to use Nishita. True Sky is a great alternative. Put some clouds in there, and yeah, that's the first glance of the new world of True Terrain, and I'm really excited what those guys are going to provide us with in the near future. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care and see you next time.